Welcome to the Social Podcast, brought to you by Another World Media and F the Box Movement. It's time for real talk with real people. Are you ready? Let's go. And hello, everyone. Welcome to the Social Podcast. I am your host, Mona Cedillo. For this episode, we are going to have a deep dive talk into representation. And when I talk about representation, it's going to be with regards to theater, film, TV, media. I want to introduce everybody to our co-host for this session, and it is Summer Nettles. Hi, Summer.
Hi, Mona. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to talk about this topic. It's super important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Our guest speaker for this episode is Alicia Young. We all know her as a director. There's a lot of different productions that came out that she was a part of. But she is the CEO at IDEA Stages, which is Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access on Stages. Hello, Alicia.
Hello, Mona and beautiful Summer. Thank you for having me here today. Really excited for this conversation. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I know for some people, they are content having a conversation about what it's like being a woman, in these different spaces. But for those of us that are of color, it goes even deeper than that. There's even more of a wall to break through. Would you ladies agree with that?
Absolutely.
Billion%. And being a woman of color, being a woman of a certain age, being a woman living with disability, a woman who is queer or into kink, a woman who is, anything, a woman and then you layer on anything else. It's even more,
Nuanced.
Nuanced, powerful, levels of isms that you stroll into.
Now, Summer, I know you've actually gone ahead and started your own media group, which I think is fantastic. I feel like everyone should do that.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes that's what it takes because it's interesting, right? Because I have an Emmy for videography.
Mm-hmm.
I teach video. I teach editing. I teach at Red Rocks. I've taught at Metro State. I have been an executive producer. Also, I was on the radio for 10 years before I switched over into television, and in radio, I was a program director. So it's very interesting in these spaces to see how women, and especially women of color, are received because it's so rare that you see us.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I walk in with my camera and my lenses and all my gear, and there's a room full of men in the same space, right? It's visually obvious that we are underrepresented. The skill set in itself lacks equity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and men are very interesting in the ways that they will try and lock you out. Like I love being around guys who think that they're going to discuss like aspect ratios or like shooting in 4K versus 1080p or like picking up a 50 millimeter lens versus picking up a 700 to 200 millimeter lens. Like, please put your dick away.
Right?
Put it away, sir. Put it away. My shot's going to be beautiful. Just, you let me do me, okay? Because I realize that you like want to talk about a lot of numbers and stuff. And like, trust me, I didn't do any math to win that Emmy, right? My shit was just dope. So sit down.
Right?
Well, you threatened them the moment you walked in the door.
Yes, absolutely.
True.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember back in the day when I first started doing media as an adult, and this was during Standing Rock. And I would show up at different cities and states, covering rallies, marches, press conferences, you name it. And it was interesting to see the hustle to get in my way, to get in front of my camera, to stand in front of me, to all of a sudden pick up the camera and, be right next to me trying to steal that shot.
Ugh.
And, and I finally one day just went off on social media and I had a number of my friends that were all male. They all came back at me and said, that's it. That's how it is. They don't care. You are a threat as a woman, period.
That's
So yeah, they are. They're gonna get in your shop. They're gonna step on your equipment. They're gonna. I mean, just just I just saw it. They just saw me as a competition, and and they did. There was some pretty ridiculous behavior to try to you know completely discredit my work.
absolutely. It just is like that in in certain echelons of a field, right? I'm fine being an intern. I'm fine being an administrator. I'm fine being a production assistant. But when I'm in the EP, now you have a problem, you know? And Alicia, I'm sure you come across that too in your roles because you're once you once there's a D in your title, like D for director, then people just become dicks. Like,
It is mind boggling how that happens, and it's amazing to me where especially in this industry I feel like there's a lot of crab in the barrel kind
Mm,
of scenarios.
yep.
It's like,
mhm,
okay, I'm now directing this and I can bring my people on and get us in, and those are the main people who are like not supporting you and not having your back, and it's like
Hmm.
you have that dichotomy of you're fighting, against the system and
mhm.
folks that are in the system, and the gatekeepers and everybody else that's trying to keep you from, just like you said, Summer, they eyeball you as soon you come in. And a woman of color, it's more like, okay, what are your credentials? How did you get here? Who let
Mm,
you, who in the hell left the gate open, right?
Yes. Yep.
absolutely.
It's funny when you come in and people are like, well, this is how we do this. And it's like, you've already discounted me as soon as I walked in the door that you don't think I know what I'm doing.
Right.
And we're in this moment now where everybody's pushing the diversity button, the
Hmm.
inclusion button.
Right.
So, oh, we're doing this so on the outside we don't look like the racist.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but what have you done to do that work on the inside? So,
It's
Yeah.
frosting, not cake.
ooh,
Oh,
with no feeling. Come on, Summer.
to be quote unquote invited into a space, as a woman of color, and then you go, you sit down, you scoot up to the table, and they look at you and they say, "All right, so now you're going to do what we tell you to do. You're going to do it exactly how we tell you to do."
Well, you're not supposed to be an expert, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure
Or
that
have an opinion.
right. Yeah, neither. And if you do have an opinion, your opinion is not based on any not it's not degree it's not based on your life. It's not based on your undergraduate degree. It's not based on your master's degree. It's not based on the 20 years of experience you have in the field. It's not based on the awards that you've won. It's
Mhm.
not based on the accolades you've been given. None of what has shown up behind me in my life is something that you see come to this table. The
Mhm.
only thing you see is the Crayola crayon that you hired
Mm,
Mhm.
cover up your racism.
yeah.
Right.
And so it's very difficult for you to receive me in any way because you didn't hire me to see me.
Mhm.
You hired me to be seen. That part of it is really difficult. And I think that that's in any space, but like in media, especially, right? Where like we put a Latina on the screen and now
Mm.
now we're diverse, right? Like, oh,
Right.
We've checked our box, our diversity box.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
And then there's no other bolstering of that, because first of all there's no one in their administration, there's no one in their artistic staff, and I'm
Right.
speaking honestly of theater,
Mhm.
more than film. But that's the thing, is like, I love walking in and being, okay, so we gave you your show, we gave you your thing to do, but we're going to under resource you, uh,
Mm.
or you're going to do it all by yourself. And I'm like, hold on. So
mm,
when you have these other shows that you put up and you throw all this money at, and they've got all these production assistants and everything else that you need, but
Right.
when it comes to the black, brown, or
Mhm.
other show, it's like, oh well, um, it's right after the pandemic and we're doing the best we can, resources.
Yes.
It's like,
mm,
okay, but when you just did that white show 6 months ago, when
Right.
you
right?
went and got extra funding and everything else. So yeah. And then that is it Malcolm X quote about the black woman being the mule of the world?
Oh, I think it
And
is.
I want to say it's Malcolm X. I'll Google it. I'll use the Googles in just a second. But
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing is like there's this belief that, and I think we believe it too. It's just
Mm.
like fuck it, I'll do it myself. you know,
Yes.
because by the time I do all this arguing with you, that's 6 whole hours that I could have just done the damn job myself instead of you resourcing and giving us what we need to make this successful. So I think that's huge. Money,
Mm-hmm.
money.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. And lately there's been like a meme going around about the fact that independence is a trauma response. When you're used to having to do it yourself in order to get it done, you're just resigned. And another good friend of mine the other day shared a meme about basically like the Black woman and the woman of color is drowning,
Mm.
and society shows up and says, "Oh, I would help you out, but you're so strong." That's exactly. And we do suffer a lot from crabs in the barrel, unfortunately, and gatekeeping. There's an old school and a new school, and you do, I think, just be cognizant of the fact that another another woman of color shows up and she may have like a different perspective than you, and it's okay to feel in your body that sense of like fight or flight, right? Like there's an odd discomfort, then you can deal with it. But if you try and hide that from yourself, then you
Mm-hmm.
will throw your sister under the bus, you know?
Right.
Um,
Right.
I
and I
agree.
think, yeah, people get annoyed with me because I'm like, I'll ask them, like, when you said that to me, how did you feel in your body?
Mm.
Well, Summer, I think it is because of the scarcity mindset. The lack, I got to be the one, and I
Yes.
don't say it in theater. I say it all the time, that, oh, that group, they already got their Negroes, they already got their Latinos, they got their folks. And it's like they
Mhm.
cast and use the same folks over and over again.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, we have and it's the tokenized, show and
Mhm.
vacuum. And that's one thing that I fight against is like, oh, it's February is in a few months.
Mm-hmm.
So it's time to get that black show up. Oh, it's September. It,
Mm-hmm.
it's time to get that Latino show up. Oh,
Mhm.
it's April. Where's the woman to direct? And so there becomes this mindset within ourselves, Summer, that it's scarce. There's not enough to go around.
Mhm.
But when you look and you see how much there is, where you got the most mediocre white man
Mm,
holding a position,
Yes.
mm.
Yes.
it's
Well,
like
then
plenty there, right?
there's plenty there. And I said, I mean, if there were only room for McDonald's, there would not be a Wendy's on the corner next door. There's
Mhm.
room for what you do and the way you do it. And
Right.
and if you don't understand that, because I also hear that excuse to the point that I think both of you are making, that there is room. One
Mhm.
of the reasons why people don't ever just jump off and try is because they're so convinced someone else is doing it. And
Right.
so, and we do that in our communities. Alicia, to your point earlier about like crabs in the barrel, like somebody starts something new, and like sometimes our first reactions are, oh, well, such and such is already doing that. Yes, and you know what I mean? Like I
Mhm.
didn't see Popeyes complaining that, well, we can't start because KFC is open, because it's going to be that diversity inside of our own collective
Mhm.
that then allows power brokers in white America to understand the value of diversifying their staff and not sticking with the same, to your point, Alicia, it's the same 5 people you've been hiring. You've got your Latinos,
Mhm.
you've got your, you know, like it is that diversity of life experience that is key, right? We're not just hiring diversity for color, we're hiring for diversity of thought.
Mm,
Mm.
an experience, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I want to go back to what Alicia was saying about during certain times of the year, you see TV stations or movie theaters, whatever. All of a sudden, they have this surplus
Capitalism.
of TV shows, movies. I see it on Hulu. I see it on Netflix. When it's Black History Month, they have a ton of movies and a ton of shows. And when it's Hispanic Month, all of a sudden they have all these Latino movies and all the TV shows. And then when it's LGBTQ, that's the only time they're actually going to be honest about, look at this plethora of, movies and TV shows or whatever that have people of color. And then in between those months, we go back to where 85% of the actors are white. I saw it back in the 80s and 90s and even now is that some directors or producers have this crazy old idea that when they want to have an ensemble, their idea of an ensemble is to have six different white people, but they're all different sizes and different hair color.
Are you talking about the television show Friends? What are we,
I'm talking about everything.
and
I
they
mean,
have one,
everything.
you ain't got a black person that lives in your neighborhood, and
Yes,
nobody black ever drank the coffee at the coffee shop.
that's what
In
I'm
New York?
saying.
No
That's what I'm
Dominican?
saying.
No Dominicans just popped up. And
In
then
New
the only
York,
thing black in that coffee shop was the coffee that came
yes,
from
Mm,
Africa and
mm,
Latin America.
mm.
right? I have challenged people. Okay, let's do something. Okay, let's do a little experiment. Magazines, TV stations, commercials, movies. Spend, I don't know, 3 days, 5 days, and keep track of how many people of color are going to pop up. How many of them are Chicanos? How many of them are indigenous? How many of them are black? How many of them are Asian? No, a majority of advertisements and these people that you see, they're white.
It's prevalent in everything, Mona.
That's what I mean. It's not real, though. It's
No,
not real. That is
we're
not
the
real
global
life.
majority. Let's be honest. If all the Latin folk, all the Asian folk, all the black folks, and all of us who are multicultural and biracial and all the things get together, we are the global majority.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, but I was to your point. I was going to say, there was that meme going around, and I think it was a TikToker, a TikTok influencer, who brought up like even like for medical books,
Mm,
all of the pictures in the medical books are of white people. And there are certain diseases of the skin, diseases
yes.
that present themselves differently
Hmm.
in Black and Latin and Asian folk. And
Right.
you have these white, that's, we talk about representation matters, all of the imagery,
Hmm.
we can go further than just the industry that we work in, which is entertainment, you know,
Hmm.
as a a covering of all that we do. But think about the person who walks in who's got um, Lyme disease or a kind of skin cancer,
Hmm.
and it's just pushed off as like, oh, take two Tylenol and you'll be fine in the morning. And
Hmm.
this person succumbs to this because a doctor hasn't been trained right to know what happens on melanated skin.
Yeah.
So representation is life or death in these streets.
My father's Puerto Rican, Irish, and French, and then my mom's Black, Irish, Native American. So it's like
Wow.
my majorities are two minorities to
Mm,
me, you know. But all my life I've been very conscious, especially because my brother's father is Black,
hmm.
um, of the dynamic of colorism,
Hmm.
and where that leaves me in things, and
Hmm.
how people who are more melanated than me are treated.
Hmm.
And I can even remember when I started high school, I transferred into a majority minority high school my sophomore year, and one of my good friends, Christine, was chocolate. She was just beautiful, and like she one of the first things she said after a couple months of knowing me was, I thought you were going to be like an uppity high yellow chick or something. And I was like, damn, like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. Like, that's not me, not at all. I
Right.
really am like CB4 over here. Like, I'm Black, y'all. I'm Black,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, I think that that's also something that causes us a lot of heartache and stress and strain. Is how we're turned against each other
Hmm.
in the spectrum of
Right.
complexion, you know.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, in those commercials, for the longest time, I might not ever see a dark sister,
Hmm.
Just
anything.
mhm. Or you know, um, I also teach. I teach K through 8 drama in rural public schools,
Hmm.
and even finding imagery for my kids, like to find, a an image to go on an anchor chart. If I look up a kid drama cartoon or images, Google search images,
Mm-hmm.
right now there are just like, it's so lacking. Either you'll have a very dark skinned boy, a Latino looking child.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's rarely representation of anybody, utilizing a wheelchair or, you know,
Yeah.
anything that shows disability or difference that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the dark skinned little black girl, you never ever see her as pretty,
Mm.
as beautiful. In fact, the show that I'm doing right now is the late great Toni Morrison's
Mm-hmm.
The Bluest Eye. And I
Right.
remember reading that. I don't know if either one of you've read The Bluest Eye. Pecola Breedlove is like so near and dear to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little girl, who her circumstances were that she was born into. The world told her she was ugly. Her mother thought she was ugly. So the whole family just wore ugly like coats.
Right.
And that's the thing, is like you rarely see where highly melanated kids with very kinky, curly, beautiful hair
Mm-hmm.
are represented as smart, pretty. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm so glad whoever's over there, Lin Manuel Miranda, has been getting his
Yes.
drug in the dirt, but he came up on this Encanto with the
Yeah.
little chocolate boy Antonio and
Mm-hmm.
and Uncle Felix fine ass. Yeah,
Yes.
every time I saw the
Yes.
cartoon, I'd be after Uncle Felix because he does look like
He's
my husband.
yes. He's my secret lover. He doesn't know, but he is.
I'll fight you for that cartoon.
That's adorable.
Because the other thing is, like, how many times do we see that representation of that black man taking care of his woman, like Felix?
Yes.
Like,
Right.
he's like, no, baby, I know you got the crazies right now, but I'm here to calm you down.
Yeah.
Love isn't celebrated. This is that,
Mm-hmm.
I want to keep going back to the theme of the show today, is that representation. Because then you have little kids who grow up thinking, well, the only black love I ever see is like maybe my mom and dad, or maybe my
Mm-hmm.
grandma and them, or somebody in my family, but it really doesn't exist because Disney doesn't believe in it. Or
Mm.
my
Yep.
Disney princess was a frog 3/4 of the movie.
Yes.
Mm.
So yeah, it's like, and we were talking earlier about post-traumatic stress syndrome. Damn, we
Yeah.
got billions of little kids who are walking around in 30, 40, and 50-year-old bodies who are dealing with post-traumatic stress from not seeing representation of themselves in a positive way. And
Mm-hmm.
it took Issa Rae to come out and say, I'm rooting for everybody black, but
Yeah.
Right.
we all have to be.
We're not talking about, like, hey, shine the camera on us for a hot minute. It's about make us a lead, have us up front and center. Like, and even then, don't have, if you're having a Latina, don't have her all knocked up or with tattoos. If you have,
Oh, the stereotypes and tropes, you don't want
yeah,
them?
yeah, like it matters. It
Right.
matters,
The
Yeah.
ethnic
that.
friend, yeah.
Not everybody's a chola. Like,
Yes, thank you. I mean, I
Or
am
the
on the
magical
inside, but
one.
that's a different story.
all
No,
right.
but that, or we're the magical one that's always solving all the white folks' problems,
Yes.
Yes.
but we're not magical enough for the white savior not to come in at the end and
Hmm.
save everybody. So yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
well, that too, and that's the other thing is like, what was it called? Crap, the movie with what's his name? Kevin Costner.
Bodyguard?
Oh,
No.
Dances with Wolves?
Oh
Yes.
my God.
Oh, Jesus, Lord,
And
Father.
and then
I
okay,
try to forget that one.
okay. So, but here's another one. What was it called? Rin River or bleh. It had Jeremy Renner in it and Elizabeth Olsen, but it was like the first um
Hmm.
Caucasian movie to talk about murdered and missing Indigenous women. But
Oh,
it was
no,
but it
no.
was told in that the female lead who's white and the other lead is a white man. It it was told on them. It was told through
Their
their
eyes.
yeah, their eyes. And and it touched they showed a little tiny bit of a ceremony and they talked a little bit here and there, with the actual, people, the tribe, whatever, but a majority of the movie was with a bunch of white people, and it was through the, white savior. She comes in and she does this and she finds her strength and she shoots the bad guy.
Mm.
Oh, thank
Oh
you.
dear. That's enough of that.
Yeah,
No.
that's what I'm saying. Like, or I had a friend that shared a picture. You guys remember? Maybe I'm old, but there's an old show from back in the day called White Shadow.
Oh, I remember that. And it was the white man to the
Yes.
inner city, but that was a trope that went around forever. Went to the inner city and got those black boys off the street to play basketball. Ken
Yes.
Howard, yes, I'm just as old, if not older.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't remember that, and that sounds awful.
It is awful because it is. It's one of those many thousands of stories that, hey, we're gonna have a story about these black kids, but
But
they're gonna have a white coach that's gonna come in and teach these kids how to study and do great in homework, and he's gonna be like a dad to them.
mm-mm. Right, because you've taken all of our men out of the house. A whole
Mm,
other
just
now we
saying.
need a white man to be our dad. Um, it's interesting though to me, and I just kind of want to go back because one of the things I hear a lot now is that we're pushing the envelope too far. We're asking for too much representation. It is
Mm-mm.
beyond the pale to say about Lin Manuel Miranda that he's not representing um, like all Boricuas, like all
Mhm.
um, and I watch like Bill Maher on Friday nights because I want to hear like what like moderate white people are thinking, you know? I'm like, what are these
Oh,
big
you're
blue
stronger
dog Democrats talking about today? Let's listen on it. I
Yeah,
know.
I do the same thing. Not that show, but I do the same thing. It's like I'm not a fan. I just want to know, like,
I just want to know where you're at. And
yeah.
it's so interesting because like what we don't understand is that like representation mattering also damages us internally, right? So like as a Boricua woman, like when I first moved to Colorado in 2014, I'm originally from Chicago. I had been living and working in Washington D.C. before that, and I had never been to Colorado, and I did not intend to stay. But
I
um,
don't
when I
think any
got
of us do.
right, it's like, oh, okay, I guess I will, but like, no, like
Just
I
for a
would
minute. Just for a minute.
just for a minute. I like the sun. I like the sun. Oh, maybe I want to stay. But I'll never, I'll never forget feeling like I would never be Latino enough here, like in
Mm,
a way that I had never felt in Chicago, where there is a large Boricua community that I
yeah.
knew, in a way that I didn't feel like living in DC, where like Dominicans are pervasive in various neighborhoods, I really and then you know to me it's like, whoa, like how I recognize that you don't see me as Latina
Mhm.
because you see what the media has given us, you know as I mean, right, like because we're not all blood in blood out, right, like no, I don't look like sad girl today, like no,
Yeah.
right? Like we come in so many shapes, sizes, and complexions. And if you go to Vieques, you
Mhm.
will see like what Puerto Rico is. You will see that this was a slave corridor, right?
Yeah.
And that even in our South American brothers and sisters, right, who are also like victims of conquistadors, like
Mhm.
what we're looking at is a diaspora, right? We're looking at a group of people who were forced to intermingle and intermarry for the sake of survival. And
Mhm.
it's likely that if you do the genetics, you'll see that it's the same Cheerios, boo. Like this is the same mix every
Yeah.
time, just different percentages of it, right? Um,
Mm.
resulting in a little different phenotype. Like you're the squirrel from the north and I'm the squirrel from the south. Um, but what it's taught us, like the way that we've been represented for so long, what it's taught us is to group what we think Latino is, to group what we think Black is, to group what
Mm.
we think Asian is based on what white America determines is acceptable.
White
Mhm.
folks. Yeah.
And that's why it's important that we don't play into that.
Have you guys seen it? It's what is it? It's called Blackish.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes,
Ish.
that. I'm like, I'm not black, but I know, like every day you have the challenge of um at least for me anyways, like when I show up, I've been in places where I walk in and people look at me and I start talking and they get all excited because I'm speaking English.
Mm.
Wow.
Yes. I've been into several stores where people have had an attitude with me, just staring at me, just looking down at me, just kind of like giving that, that fish eye. And so finally I come around to where they are and I say, "Hey, hello, how's it going?" And all of a sudden they light up. "Oh, hi. Oh, I'm just great. Isn't it beautiful?" Yeah, it is. It is.
Mm.
Well,
Yeah.
you're not like those others, you know. That's
Yes.
Right.
let's not dig into that. You know, because your speech is white, Americanized,
Hmm.
your vernacular,
Yes, yes. But I mean, that's one of the reasons
so
why.
non-threatening.
Mhm. But
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I love that show because of that. The lead character, him and his wife both. Well, mostly him though, but going back and forth between trying to prove that he belongs here, but then, in this space at the table, but then at the same time trying to prove to his family, neighbor, whoever that, I am black. I'm black enough. I am, you know.
Hmm. Hmm. It's so yeah, we walk in two worlds because economically we're forced to
Mhm.
ultimately. And this is why even with the documentary series that I'm working on, it's based on the fact that Black women are forced to work in economies that are
Mm.
killing us,
Mhm.
and that duality, and what it takes to maintain it so that we're palatable and digestible to a
Mhm.
majority white environment is super dangerous,
Right.
and leads to things like the necessity to pass the Crown Act, right? Like, damn, like, you're getting judged based on what we think is going to come out of your mouth.
Mhm.
I'm going to get judged based on like whether or not I straightened out my hair, like,
Right.
and that level of anxiety is very detrimental to your physical health,
And mental. And
Mhm.
and your mental.
yeah, I mean, and you know, we're living in a world like I go through this a lot with I remember there was this white mediocre white man in theater
Mm.
who asked me, "Why is it always race with you? Why is," and this is well before the
Mm.
the summer of reckoning 2020. "Why is it always race with you?" And I was like, because as soon as I walk in the door and you see my black skin, it's about race with you.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Soon as I walk in, it whether
Yep.
you want to, "Oh, I've never been," that whole, the speech that came next, and
Mhm.
"I've got black friends," and I was
Oh,
like,
I love that one.
how many of them have stayed the night at your house, slept in your house, you know,
Mhm.
you've cooked a meal for or with. There was this again. I late at night I watch TikTok, and there was
That
that's
is
my
so
favorite.
dangerous. That is
It
so
is
dangerous.
a rabbit hole that, oh my gosh. Um, but there was this guy, and there was a white woman, fragile as she could be with her tears being
Mm.
milked from her eyes. She could not be um, racist because she had biracial children.
Oh my
And
gosh.
Dear.
I love the answer though. The answer was, so did slave owners.
Mhm.
So did slave masters. They had black children
Yes,
that
they
they
did.
sold and killed and re-raped and sold off to other white men to rape. So,
Mhm.
it's like as soon as we walk in the door, and Summer, we talk about colorism. The thing is, we need to accept and gather in ourselves in realizing when we walk into all white spaces, they see you as black. They
Amen.
don't see any other part of your identity. We rarely, when someone is biracial or multiracial, hear anybody speak to anything other than their blackness. Is the anti-black sentiment that is truly what is pervasive. When we all go and do our 23andMe or anything, and we
Mhm.
realize how much of the continent of Africa dwells in so many of us, I think that's what is seen and hated in Latin folks, or and even the indigenous part that was
Mhm,
never able to be staved off and killed off, and
mhm,
they didn't take all of it. So, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. I mean, it's true. Like it's a necessity, but I think it's something that we in the Black community fail to recognize, right? Like Black is a term that we came up with in the 60s in solidarity with each other
mm,
because we were all going to be Black no matter what. We have really come away from that idea. Like who is Black enough, who, but the idea of us not, I don't really know any Black people who are literally like the color Black, right? Like
mhm,
this is a movement, this isn't a complexion,
mm,
and we need to really embrace that you are Black regardless of how light or dark you are, because this is ours, this is us taking it back, you know? Um,
mhm,
I mean, I couldn't be happier with a capital B for Black. I could not be happier because that does, it signifies that like across all colors, and Africa's the only one that does that, let's be real. Like,
mhm.
we are Black together. We want to criminalize complexion, not economy, you know?
Right.
And that is a problem because when you're rich, again, we live in a shame-based capitalist society. So if
Mhm,
you're rich and you have a drug problem and it's opioids, oh, poor Bobby.
mhm.
But if you're poor, you are a degenerate. And if
Yes.
you're a poor person of color, you're a degenerate criminal.
That's something we see every day is, if you are a certain color, then we need grace with you. We need to talk to you. We need to offer rehab. But if you're this color, you need to go to jail.
We have a media
Mm,
that feeds that beast
right.
all the time. I mean, and like it's it's unfortunate that Ice Cube went from like cop killer to like now I'm a cop on TV. Like, like, oh, okay.
Iced tea. It was iced tea, right?
Ice T. Yeah, Ice T.
Yeah. That
And
was mind blowing to see that because I remember back in the day, like movies like Breaking and whatnot, seeing him all showing up on stage. He'd be wearing his hat, and he's got all these like
the poofy. Hmm.
crazy looking,
tattoo.
wristbands, and he's got all these like thorns and all kinds of stuff hanging out. And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden now you see him all flashing the badge.
Well, don't forget how do we switch the narrative?
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Go get the one who's hollering cop killer and change them into the cop.
Right.
Mhm. Mhm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was probably a PR move for him.
Mm,
Probably started as one. Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, we really do. We need to start seeing these regularly, like reoccurring weekly shows. Like honestly, I couldn't get through the first episode of Tiger King because the teeth were so bad. I had never seen anything. I was like, damn, there is no dentist for how long? Just tigers. No
This is
dentist.
for the tigers, though.
Just there's only right. There's vets, there's dentists for the tigers, but not for the people. I was like, whoa, damn, this is rough.
Yeah.
And I was like, how are all these people like having so much like they seem to be having a lot of sex and a lot of I'm like your breath though, like wow. Girl. I was like,
Well,
what?
don't forget, if I'm high, you high. My breath bad, your breath bad. It's all like a perfume that you no
I
longer.
don't know. I watched that and I'm like, I'm doing something wrong because I'm single. I'm like, I am doing something
What? And you
wrong.
don't have two men fighting over you?
I
One
need
man?
to go get a
Okay.
tiger. That's what it is. Part of why I wanted to talk was because for me, it's not enough to see somebody with my color. When I see shows like Ugly Betty, I see shows like Gente, I see
So
just
good.
different shows where they're actually showing the community I grew up in. I mean, not only does it make me proud, but it also reminds me that I'm not alone. I'm not the only person here. Even though here at work, I may be the only Latina, but I turn on this show and I'm like, okay, we are not extinct. As much as they try to completely wipe us off this planet, we are still here.
How that has to change. And I'm going to quote my girl, Toni Morrison, again. She said, if you can't find the book that you want to read, You got to write it. We have to stop relying on these folks
Yes.
writing our narratives, or
Yes.
and honestly funding our narratives. Because we have all this charitable money that's flowing into, but then they want to tell you how to write it. Storytelling, didn't start when whoever the guy was created the camera. It was way back in the day, sitting around the fire, when indigenous folks, black, brown, and yellow, we were the ones telling stories about the hunt. I work with kids of color, and it's like, oh, you'd be great at acting, and there's this whole thing of like, it doesn't belong to me.
Mm.
And finding scripts and stories that that represent our students and our children, that aren't trauma based. Trying to
Yes.
find something that shows black and brown joy, or kids telling their story from their perspective. And I'm saying kids, but I mean all of us.
All of us.
Right.
Well, and Alicia, I think to your point, like when you look at the origin of story, it is about the preservation of society, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And so when we think about how we tell stories, understand that this is how you are preserving and growing your society.
We got to write the stories. We got to produce the stories. We have to act in the stories. We have to, and then we need to show up and support. I've been in theater here in Denver, I don't know how many decades now. We just don't feel like the arts belong to us. And I mean the performing arts. I feel like we have been left out for so long that we're just like, that's not a space for me. Oh, now give me athletics, and it's sports.
Right.
Also, another, if you look at that, if you look at how that is tiered out, who are the owners,
Mm-hmm.
and who are the worker bees? And I hate to, akin it to a plantation system, but come on.
John Elway is a racist. Let's just,
Ugh.
like, you should have brought Colin Kaepernick. I'm sorry. I don't care.
Right.
You, you took the words right out of my mouth, Summer. Massel said for long, we ain't having that Negro here.
Let me tell you, Colin didn't have to throw the ball once for you to
Mhm.
sell tickets in those seats. Let me just tell you.
First
Yeah.
of all, that's a drop in the bucket. Somebody was telling me like the revenue from the Super Bowl alone could solve world hunger for a decade.
I believe it.
World
Absolutely.
hunger, not hunger in America. World hunger.
Going back to, I think it was summer maybe that you were talking about crabs in a bucket. And I wanted to ask you both because I know that I've been in situations, I've been in offices or in spaces where there was someone indigenous or someone that was a Chicana, and I would think, okay, she's gonna take me under her wing, like she's one of my people, and we're gonna do this. But instead, the experience was her trying to kill every single idea that I've had, talking down to me, that her role was to put me in my place. Not nurturing, not mentoring, just like I'm the eldest here.
I call it the couched in syndrome. They comfortable, they got their space, they are safe, and here you come looking like them, reminding the folks in charge, massing them that you're replaceable. And 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 then they get uncomfortable, and they're not there to work together, become, bond together, and work against the systemic racism and isms that would face you both.
Yeah.
I see that in theater a lot. There was a time where I did an online reading with a white producer, and she brought in, and it was Raisin in the Sun, and she brought in this black director, and I was like, oh, it's just, so really great meeting you, and we really need more out in Denver, and I've got some thoughts on things that we could do. And his response was like, well, I'm gonna connect with the theater company and talk to the white woman, and if we feel like it's important to bring you in on that, then we will. I went to school at Southern University, and I've heard this a lot, like from the black staff faculty, was like, I got mine, now you get yours.
That expectation of struggle
Yeah.
is real. So we seem to have a complex or not a complex enough understanding of how our white counterparts get ahead. They get ahead by not gatekeeping, right? Like they don't make it difficult. When Robert Kennedy and John F. Kennedy got into Harvard, their application letters were basically one paragraph, right?
Daddy is joking.
Right? And like it was like my father went to Harvard, you know? And now and like there was no like rigorous, right? But had it been one of us reviewing an application from a prior attendee, the rigor with which we would have reviewed that application would have been threefold without ever understanding that yes, we know that perhaps you didn't have the full lexicon or the full surrounding of the support that you needed to be completely successful here, but when you get here we're going to provide it, versus we're not going to let you in because you have to already be here at this place before we see you. When I started in radio, my second job was in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And 3 days in to my job there, I told my Latino program director that he didn't know how to do his job. You don't know how to use the automation system for the music. You don't know how to produce commercials. I was in tears and I was like, I can help you get there, but you can't keep throwing me under the bus by telling folks I haven't done the production work when you haven't showed me how to use the system because you don't know how to use it yourself. And 6 hours later, he had me come back in. He had called HR and they fired me after I had relocated from my previous job, quit my previous job and relocated, and only been there for 3 days. So I wasn't qualified for unemployment. 40 days later, they fired him and gave me his job. One of the first people I hired was a Black DJ and like hype man who was like killing it in our local clubs. And he had been applying to the radio station where I became program director for 2 years. He couldn't get in the door. It wasn't until they hired me that I made it a priority for him to come in the door. But what he didn't understand, and like from his perspective, I was picking on him, I was hard on him. But what he didn't understand is every staff meeting we had, I had to fight to keep him in the door. So like when he didn't show up on time, I was like, bro, you got to be here on time. When he like got out of the van, there's weed come out of the van. Yo, no more smoking in the promo vehicle. When you don't cut the commercial, I'm up your ass. What we have not yet mastered is the level of transparency it takes to have solidarity in our work environments. And at that stage of my career, I didn't know. And I think honestly, this is how they play us against each other on the plantation, right? Like, is by making you feel like as a member of like the leadership team or what have you, that you need to keep this part of it not transparent to your staff. Yes, you do have to have discernment. Absolutely. And you have to share the pressures and the realities of what you're going through. And on the flip side, if you're the person coming in, you need to be kind of receptive to the fact that if someone fought for you to be there, they didn't fight for no reason. And I think sometimes we do get that confused and we don't have those conversations enough where we are just honest, like nobody wants you here more than I do, but if you don't come on with this on, like these people are on my back every day about you, and like I can't take that level of stress. Either I'm going to quit because I am tired of this, or you're going to come up, or come across or meet me halfway.
Give me a call. I'll be there. I'll carry the 1080 HD 4K.
Come on now.
2,000 microphone digital USB. Blah, 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 blah.
Alicia.
I'm ready. But I think it's important that, we need to look at, there's no pathway, and when you have, unfortunately, Black and brown gatekeepers who should be our mentors or see us coming up and going, okay, I'm going to take you under my wing and I'm going to help you. And then that same response of, I'm going to respect this relationship and I'm going to show up early and I'm going to do what I need to do to not only keep me looking good, but you too. But Summer, I'm serious. I'll carry your microphones in today.
Same.
All right.
Do you have a specific person, you could even say mentor? Who was that person that encouraged you and reminded you that you were more than all the nonsense?
So the person that I was trying to have as a mentor unfortunately died, like, and that was Jeffrey Nicholson of the Shadow Theater. In fact, I came back to Colorado after college and had been away for a long time. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm gonna try to get back into this theater thing, which, in Colorado, it's almost non existent. Colorado has hundreds of theater companies. So there is really not like a great plethora of folks who do, what we do. And then you have that scarcity mentality that just kind of like, I'm gonna be safe in my spot. And I really wish there was like, and I'm trying to do more mentorship with what I do. This past program that I did, this past show that I did, I took a kid in who, came in and we paid them to intern, and she was our costume. She was a student of mine when from fourth grade to eighth grade, and she said to me, "Hey, I want to do fashion design and costume design." And when I had the opportunity, I went and found her, and I was like, "Hey, here's what I can do. I can bring you in. I can give you a ride. I can make sure you eat, and I can make sure you get home safely. I can give you homework and teach you what I know and put you in with the folks who know more than me." But there was really no one. The person who mentored me was me.
Mm.
I had to get up and say, this is what I want. And if that means my parents, don't believe in sending me to get my education this way because that's a safety thing, right? They want us to be safe. They want us to be successful. Um, I'm just gonna have to read every book I can read. I'm gonna have to get on the internet and self-train myself. When I am in these spaces, I'm gonna be nosy. Hey, what you doing over there on the soundboard? What's this do? So that's my story. I don't know, Summer. You might have a different experience, but for me, there really wasn't much of an opportunity for that.
I will say once I transitioned out of radio, I was in a much better space. When I finally got on the radio, when I was finally on the air at 103.5 Kiss FM, I was really unhappy because I was too thick and too black for the top 40 station, but my delivery is very like 103.5 Kiss FM. Like, so it was very like you sound so top 40, but you don't look like Barbie, so we have a problem. And then I went over to the black station in Chicago to ask them if, they could just let me do a shift. The program director at the time told me, and she was a black female, and she said, "You're not attractive enough to be, I don't know if you think you're cute." Like,
Oh, wait, what?
oh, it was so serious. It was so serious.
That is madness.
It
That
was
is
Well, who was she looking at? Like, what? Do you have boomerang toes or something? You should have given her those words of like, how'd that feel in your body?
right. If I had them then, like, did you say this because you elevated yourself, or what was that
mm.
about? Like, so hindsight is 2020, but like,
For the record, everyone, Summer is beautiful.
oh,
Gorgeous. Anytime you wear red lipstick on any of your social media,
uh-huh.
I'm gonna say the little black lesbian that lives inside my heart jumps. I'm sorry, Summer. I did it again. Please
No,
go
I
back.
love it. I agree. I mean, my heart, that just like was so uplifting. But like when I transitioned into television, I was so very blessed to have a black woman assignment desk managing editor and a black woman community affairs director, Angie Rosamond and Pam Oliver at NBC in Chicago, that saw me, that saw my hustle, and that were like, anything else they could put on my burger, they put it on there. They were like, "Oh, you came with a beef patty, so do you want like onions on that? Do you want lettuce? Do you want tomato?" Anything that they could give me to chew on, they gave me. And that really elevated my understanding of news and production. Nita Mosby Tyler is like kind of like a patron saint to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
I've gone to her and I was like, "Can I just sit at your feet? I will file folders. I will file toenails. Whatever you need done, I am here."
I
Mhm.
for me, amongst my contemporaries, amongst like folks who are our age, like Diane Miles is doing great work. Rebecca Henderson is doing great work. You
Yes,
know,
yes,
like, yeah, like Simone Ross is doing great work, you
yes.
know? So
Carlos
like,
this out. Yes.
right? So like, Chantel Lewis is doing great work. Like
Yes.
I like shout out to my contemporaries who are open with their struggle. Danielle Schutz often posts about how the struggle is real and she overcomes it, right? Doing great work.
Mhm.
Shout
Yeah.
out to our contemporaries, the folks who are currently on the field building that legacy, right? Building the torch. Jice Johnson, Benny Samuels, just like so many women of color who have those similar stories, Alicia, to the one that you shared, and then like to the one that impacted me at the beginning of my career, that are like, we're going to shut that shit down. And I think it's just as important to see the taller trees in the forest as it is to see the ones that are growing alongside you. And if you can see them growing to the sun, you'll know where it is.
Those are the people that I tend to gravitate to. It's not enough that they shine, it's that they share that spotlight, you know?
Mhm.
And I think that that is, if we're going to talk about legacy, that is what real legacy is about. It's not just about like what you did. It's about how did you pass it along so that it keeps going.
I just loved this time of communion, and I was sitting here sipping tea, and I'm like, I just want to find time to do this more often. So the work that I'm trying to do right now is through coffee and cold reads, is to bring new works and classic works of playwrights who are marginalized,
Hmm.
and we are a script reading club. I'm like, the more we read these scripts, and the more agency we have in saying, hey, these are the plays that need to be um, produced.
I love this.
I have good times with you, Alicia. I really do.
I'm talking about the spades game. Was it spades, or were we playing gin?
We were playing gin.
Yeah, don't play gin with her, she cheats.
Uh-oh.
I do not. Alicia, if you want to come back anytime, you're always welcome on the podcast. Summer's going to be one of the regular co-hosts.
Lovely. Let
Yeah.
me know. I'll always come shake shit up. You know that. I'm down for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Alicia. This has been such a blessing. Mona, thank you. This has been a fantastic, wonderful end to my week.
And that's going to be a wrap for our episode 4. Shout out to Alicia Young for being our guest speaker and our co-host Summer Nettles. As always, much love to Armando Lopez for hooking us up with the music. And we're going to be closing out this episode with the song by Michael, known as Il Seven Acuna. The song is Shine Bright. Until next time, good to each other.
Time traveler. Time traveler. Life phasing, loose translation. Maybe you can get the message clear. I'm just saying, hey, we playing with a fragile design. Dynamite out of sight, JJ blowing your mind. It ain't no mystery, they hide the history. You send the king, needle in the army, the guy that fiend, they took our dreams. We chase for the glory of fame. When you living, all you got is your name. You sustain. We made it out the rhythm of life. Kinetic science and alignment, even God got a price. Breath is elevation, mind glowing light. Hands gripping transformation in love with a night. Mind getting clear from the pain of your past. Shaking from the echo of the loud gun blast. Time traveler, Acuna Black still living. Mind still driven. Breaking all the walls of tradition. Becoming locked in with the gods. Breath is opposition, us kings look odd, but we push evolution of life. Past a stagnant frozen mind, asthma out of breath. Concepts still shine bright. Concepts still shine bright. Concepts still shine. Concepts still shine bright.